Welcome to my channel. The poem that we are going to do today is The Toys by Coventry Patmore, who is a British Victorian poet. Some of his important themes are loneliness, loss, death, and his belief in God, in the mercy of God. uh, it is important to note that his personal grief that was caused because of the death of his wife, it led him to write religious poems, and those poems that told about the mercy of God Almighty. The text of this poem can be divided into four sections according to the theme of the poem. The this is a narrative poem. A poem is one that tells you a story, and this story is that of a father and a son. The father is the narrator of the this incident as well, and he is basically telling you about his relationship with his son. The actual incident is that the son had disobeyed the father for the seventh time. However, the father, who is not as patient as his mother, patient here means tolerant, enduring, as the son's mother was. That is the maternal love is missing here. So the child is hit by the father because of his disobedience, and he's sent to sleep without giving any sort of consolation, without any kiss or anything. So we find that the father regrets, he repents that the son has not been sent to sleep with any positive reinforcement or any sort of reinforcement. Reinforcement is the response to a certain action. Here, the son goes to sleep, and he is he has got wet eyes, and along his bed is a side table which has some toys, which uh, it seems as if the child has gone to sleep while having a look at those toys. So the father feels sorry that if God can forgive human beings, why can't human beings forgive human beings? And especially if the relationship is that between that of a father and a son who had recently lost his mother. The father believes that he should have been more patient than uh, he was at that time, because he did not show any signs of patience. This is a very emotional poem, and it shows remorse as well. Uh, Among the many themes are the themes of loss, remorse. Remorse is regret, and especially regret after doing something bad. Then innocence, the child's innocence can also be seen, who is trying to forget the spanking, the beating that he receives from his father by just going to sleep. And before going to sleep, he had been busy with his titbits. And then there is the theme of fatherhood. Is fathers are comparatively stricter than mothers. And then another important theme is that of divine forgiveness. Now we are going to do the explanation of the poem section wise. So, coming to the first section of the poem, which comprises of lines 1 to 6. My little son, who looked from thoughtful eyes and moved and spoke in quite grown up wise, having my law the seventh time disobeyed, I struck him and dismissed with hard words and unkissed. his mother, who was patient, being dead. So here the father is speaking, he is the speaker of the poem. He reflects on his son's disobedience, and the disobedience, the father tells himself, it has been for the seventh time that the son had disobeyed him. So the speaker, that is the father, he responds with harshness, with cruelty, and he strikes the boy and then sends him away without affection. And obviously, such a behavior is disturbing for the boy. He keeps on crying, and he says that maybe the reason of my behavior was the absence of the child's mother. So when we do something wrong, we always look for excuses to justify our bad deeds. So the father's behavior here, it is influenced by, maybe it's because of the absence of the mother, who had always been patient in such situations. And for the son, it is a very disturbing thing that the father is hitting him, whereas his mother would not have done so in such a situation. First of all, he is disturbed because of the absence of the mother. The second thing that disturbs him is the attitude of the father towards his disobedience. This is the second section of the poem, and that starts from line 7 and ends at line 11. Here, the narrator, that is the father, he is expressing his grief and concern that after punishing the child physically, the child had been sent to sleep without any consolation, without any affection, without any love. So he is feeling guilty of his own behavior. And then he says that after punishing his son, that is punishing my son, he begins to worry about his grief might keep him from sleeping, showing his regret that maybe the child would not be able to sleep properly. He says, then fearing lest his grief should hinder sleep, I visited his bed but found him slumbering deep. But the child was sleeping at the time with darkened eyelids, that his eyelids were dark. Maybe he had been crying before sleeping, and their lashes yet for his late sobbing wet, that he had been crying before his sleep. So that disturbs the father more, that the child, without saying anything, had gone to sleep, and he had not received any sort of warmth from his father, which the mother would have given. This brings us to the third section of the poem, which starts from line 12 and continues till line 24. And the basic theme of this poem, the themes of this section are, first of all, fatherly love and remorse, he feels because of that, the love he has for his child, and then the innocent pleasures and the child's sadness. First of all, he says, and I, with moan, kissing away his tears, left others of my own. So he says that I kissed the child's forehead in order to console him, in order to keep him sleeping soundly. He kisses him tenderly and wipes away the tears of the uh, boy. um, and he feels deep regret, deep remorse for his earlier harshness, because he had been very strict with the boy by hitting him. So he says that while I was kissing his forehead, I saw a few things. And what were they? He says, for on a table drawn beside his head, he had put within his reach a box of counters and a red veined stone. Counters are beads, a piece of glass, abraded, destroyed by the beach, and 6 or 7 shells. a bottle with bluebells, and two French copper coins ranged there with careful art to comfort his sad heart. In order to comfort himself, the boy had kept his toys with him, and his toys were not the toys that you expect of a child belonging to the age to today's generation. He had very small petty things like shells, like coins, like such things that he had collected from his visit to the seashore. So he says that the father discovers a very poignant, a very hurtful sort of a scene. The boy had arranged small, cherished objects on a table by his bed in an attempt to comfort himself. And that shows the innocence of the child, that he tried to forget the trauma he had been through by just playing with his toys. This is very natural for a child. So he says that here we find a shift as well, a shift of feelings, where we come to know that first of all, we were caught up in a sort of a pendulum like situation, whether to agree with the father, his decision, or not, the father's decision of hitting the boy. Now we find that our sympathies are with the child, and he has got some French copper coins, some bluebells, all carefully arranged, showing that these small things bring comfort to his sad heart, because his mother is no longer there, so he has to uh, console himself. His father is, he believes that the father is not going to come there because he had been harsh with him. So one feels sad for the boy, and we somehow feel the father has been unduly strict with the child. So, this brings us to the last section of the poem, which is about the repentance and about the divine forgiveness and human frailty. So when that night I prayed to God, I wept and said, he says, the father, after realizing his mistake and feeling immense sorrow for how he treated his son, prays to God. It is that, sometimes you are going through a moment of realization, and here the moment of realization for the father is this one, when he has hit his son, and the son has gone to sleep without any without any consolation. His emotions overwhelm him, and he begins to cry. He recognizes the pain he has caused and the fragility of both his son and himself. His son is still dependent on him. He's young. His tears, they reflect not only his regret but also his understanding of human weakness. That how we behave impulsively and God forgives, whereas human beings don't forgive. Ah, is an interjection. Interjections are those words that do not carry meaning, but they express a certain emotion. So, over here is an expression of sorrow. When at last we lie with tranced breath, not vexing thee in death. Here thee is with a capital, thee means you, thee is with a capital T, which means he is addressing God. Here the speaker is talking about the moment of death when humans are no longer able to trouble or offend God. He says that the here he is using the phrase tranced breath, which is referring to the stillness of death. He says that when we die, or when we are dying, that is the only moment when we do not make mistakes, or we do not disobey God. Otherwise, when we are alive, we are always making mistakes, and we are constantly struggling with our habit of making mistakes. And he says that it is the time when we are dying when we do not disturb God. Otherwise, we continue to disturb God because of our mistakes and constant disobedience. He then says, "And thou rememberest of what toys we made our joys." He says that it is only you. We don't remember our past, but it is only you. That is God who remembers our past. He says that here he imagines that after death, God will look back and remember how, as humans, we found joy in simple, often very trivial things like the toys of life, like the toys of the boy. Just as the child found comfort in his small objects like stones, like shells, like coins, humans too are easily pleased and distracted by things that in life, in the grand thing called life, which seem insignificant. So man is in the habit of looking for trivial pleasures, and the same was done by his son. So the toys here are actually the symbols of those petty joys, those insignificant things which we value during our lives. Whereas, and when we lose those things, we think that maybe they have been very important for us, but that is our innocence, that is our ignorance, that please that we tend to forget all these forget our own mistakes, and we absorb ourselves in little activities which or things which are not important. Then he says, "How weakly understood thy great commanded good." So he says, we are human beings. He admits that as humans, we can't fully understand your will. That is God's will. And whatever He has commanded good, whatever He has ordered us to do good, we are often too limited. We are so petty in our thinking that we do not understand the bigger picture that God offers. We run after small benefits, and God, obviously, He understands what is best for us. Here, the word weakly, it emphasizes our frailty, human frailty, and our inability to truly understand the goodness of God and God's commandments of moral standards. Then he says, "Then fatherly not less." Here he is referring to God because he's a Christian. This poet, Coventry Patmore, he's a Christian. He is referring to God as, uh, you know, uh, uh, as a father, and he believes that it is only God who understands us. Otherwise, human beings are incapable of doing so. He says, "Then fatherly not less than I whom thou hast molded from the clay." I am the one who is mistaken. I am molded out of clay. I have been shaped out of clay. मिट्टी से मैं बना हूँ. He says that here the poet is drawing a parallel between himself as a father and as a creator to God, who is the creator of all things. He says that just as I am trying to be a father to my son, God is the father to all humans who were molded from the clay, meaning created by God from the earth. Here he is referring to the biblical concept, the concept of Christianity, that Father God is the Father. So he says that he's showing his hope as well, that God, like any father, like any human father, will show compassion towards his children despite their flaws. He is going to forgive the bad deeds of his children. He says, then he says, "Thou'lt leave thy wrath," wrath is extreme anger, "and say, I will be sorry for their childishness." He says that these are the final lines of this poem, and here he says that he imagines himself. Uh, as he imagines himself as if he's in front of God. And when it comes to punishing the human beings, God is going to forgive him. He's going to put his anger aside, and God is going to show mercy by understanding the humans, about by understanding the frail creatures as we are. So he says, the poet says that just as the speaker felt sorry for his son's childishness and forgave him, he hopes that God will do the same for humanity. The word childishness over here refers to the human tendency to act in immature or ignorant way, unable to fully grasp divine wisdom or intentions. Here he is expressing his hope that God will look at human mistakes with the same compassion a father would have for a child who doesn't fully understand what they have done wrong. So here in these lines, the last stanza, which is the essence of the whole poem, here the speaker, he is filled with regret and tenderness after his harsh treatment of his son. He turns to God in prayer because God is the ultimate savior. When no one helps you, it is God who's there for you. And he here the poet realizes, or the narrator, or the father, he realizes that the human beings have a tendency to find joy in simple and unimportant things, just like a child who finds joy in his toys. And here he also acknowledges that human beings are frail. They do not understand the greater purpose of God and His commands. However, he draws a comparison in the last stanza, which is very important. He draws a comparison between himself as a father and between and God as a divine father. Just as feels sorry and he forgives his son for his childish behavior, he hopes that God too will show mercy to humanity, and he would understand their limitations, their weaknesses, and as he forgets the childishness of his son, God may also forgive the childishness of his human beings. So the poem ends with a optimistic note. Optimistic is a positive note. It shows the hope for divine forgiveness and compassion. This brings us to the end of the explanation of the poem, "The Toys." And for tomorrow, we are going to do the analysis of this text. This was the word to word explanation of the text, and tomorrow we are going to do its analysis as well as the exercise. See you in the next video.